And let's see what Jesus has to say about this. We're going to pick it up at verse 30 of John chapter 8. As he spoke these words, many believed in him. And that's speaking of Jesus. And Jesus said to those Jews who believed him, "If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." They answered him, "We're Abraham's descendants. We've never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you will be made free?" And Jesus answered them, "Most assuredly I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave of sin. And a slave does not abide in the house forever, but a son abides forever. Therefore, if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed." Freedom comes by not our self-determination, spiritually speaking, but freedom comes by recognizing our bondage. Listen to this statement from the Declaration of Independence. It says, "Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And, accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed." Huh? You know, sentences like this would have been considered run-on sentences when I went to school. What do they say? Well, they're saying that with prudence, it says, the government shouldn't change every day. It shouldn't change just for light or transient reasons. But it also says that experience has shown that people are more disposed to just kind of go on suffering rather than bother to change things. It's a lot of trouble to change things. I'll just figure out a way to put up with it. And somehow I think, my personal opinion, that Pittsburghers are better at putting up with stuff than most. I don't know whether it's the weather. I don't know whether it's the potholes. I don't know whether it's the ongoing, rotating, revolving door of our government in and out of jail over the years. I don't know what it is, but Pittsburghers have come to just, hey, toughen up. Suck it up and do it. And I think for that reason, many people, they're willing to put up with a lot of stuff. And that's just the way it is. My grandmother had an expression she used to use, "That's just your cross to bear." That's just your suffering ordained for you. You see, we tend to make our bondage comfortable rather than seeking freedom. We tend to make our bondage manageable rather than seek freedom. Oh, I can put up with it. Oh, I can handle it. Oh, I can do that. In the last year, I've had the opportunity to counsel with several people who are in bondage to seriously addictive drugs, crack cocaine and heroin. And it's a bondage that an addict tries to find a way to make it manageable. Whether that by using auxiliary drugs. I've heard that most overdoses of heroin usually involve multiple drugs because the addict is managing their lives with other things. Me, I didn't manage my addictions when I was into drugs. I just took everything anybody would give me. No questions asked. But in this pharmacological, educated society we live in, a lot of addicts have become very educated in, kind of balancing stuff to manage it. But the day comes when they find that they can't manage it. They are being managed. But Pastor, I'm not a drug addict. Addiction isn't something that I really know anything about. And I would contend that, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I can name 2 things you're addicted to. The first one is food. You eat it every day. If you don't get it, you start to have cravings. You start to have reactions. If you don't have it for a long enough period of time, physical things start really ravaging your body. And you will get to the place where you will do anything for food. I gotta have it. Now, most of us in this room have never come to that place of having to do something that you wouldn't ordinarily do in order to feed your body. You read stories of people that were crash landed on some remote place or something with no food. It's amazing what the human will do to try and survive and to continue to eat. So I know you're addicted to that. But I know also that the Bible tells me you're addicted to something else. You're addicted to sin. Me too. Me too. It's there. And there is a part of us that desires that. The Scripture calls it the flesh. And Paul tells us that the flesh and the spirit are contrary to one another because they desire different things. It says the spirit lusts against the flesh and the flesh lusts against the spirit. It's saying that they both have different desires and those desires are contrary to one another. And so there's a battle that goes on within us sometimes. And we tend to get to the place of trying to make that addiction manageable, not get free from it. Spoke to someone recently who is facing detox and rehabilitation from serious drug addiction. It's not something to look forward to. It's painful. It's the longer you've been addicted, the more serious it is. And the longer you've been addicted to your particular sin, the harder it is. Man, it's like going through the DTs. It's like going through withdrawal. And then after the withdrawal, there's a whole relearning of the mindset. Because once the physical manifestation is gone, well, then there's a whole relearning of the mindset. And that happens to us with respect to sin. The other thing that we try and do with sin is we say, but I don't sin. Well, not me. Well, maybe a little bit here, but it's not that big a deal. And that's what the Jews said to Jesus right there. They said, we've never been in bondage. We're Abraham's children. Well, what did you call that in Egypt? What did you call that in Babylon? Oh, by the way, right now you are ruled by Rome, a foreign country, imperialism over you. Isn't that like slavery? Isn't that bondage? They would call it bondage in another way. They say, oh no, we've never been in bondage. Freedom comes by recognizing our own bondage. Recognizing that it is bondage. Recognizing that it is not a character flaw. It's sin. It's sin.